That awkward moment when you try to tell Freddie Coleman how to use a microphone. Well, all day, people have been using that microphone where you're sitting, and it's got like the windscreen on it.
Right.
And it's just like people have been walking away from it, and you can't. And so I was just like, hey, it hasn't been very sensitive. And you're like, oh, yeah, 8 years ago.
So you tell me that people had a chance to speak into a microphone, they're speaking away from the microphone?
Yes.
Really? They've done that today?
Professionals.
So we need a 101 course on microphone etiquette. That's what you're telling me, right?
And I made, then the one guy who definitely knows how to use a microphone,
it's the
Freddie
TV,
Coleman.
Yeah,
and
it's the TV people, though. The TV people got them all like mic'd up and stuff. That's what it was.
That is very true. Very
Look at you, though, man. I don't even know a guy named Jim. You look like you don't leave it.
I mean, CrossFit's coming to the Capital Region. Are you going to participate?
No. Those people, they're at DEFCON 1. I'm still maybe at DEFCON 10 compared to them, But when you get to be a certain age, you don't want everything to just continue to go south. You want to try to keep it as north as possible.
See, but it's warm down south. That's why I just keep rolling.
Yeah, I roll down there, too, but when I get down there, I avoid the sweet potato pie. I avoid the sweet tea because my in-laws look at me and say, he must be on that stuff. What's wrong with him? I said, no, I'm not on the stuff. I don't need rehab. I'm just changing a lifestyle. That's all I'm doing.
All right, so you have your ties to the Capital Region. We know each other for a while now, and I've asked this question a couple times today. When do you get used to just looking over your shoulder and seeing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or David Ortiz?
I don't think you ever get used to it, but that's one of the cool things about being here because you just never know who you're going to run into in the hallway. Prime example, when my daughter came to visit, it was Christmas holiday of 2014. And she's a Patriots fan, Red Sox fan. She grew up in Massachusetts with my ex-wife. And Johnny Damon and Teddy Bruschi was sitting in the green room talking. So at this point, my daughter's just ape that two of her people are in the room at the same time. And she said, Daddy, is it okay if I say hi to them? I said, I think they would be pretty offended if you didn't say hi to them. So she walked over, they took a great picture with her, and she looked at me, and I said, yeah, stuff like that goes on all the time here. Because she looked at me and said, why aren't you out of your mind? You get used to it, but it's still pretty cool. There's no doubt about that.
Well, we had the moment, and I'm sure you've had this at some point in your life, probably back in like high school, where you're sitting with your buddies at the lunch table, and the kid that you've got beef with walks in behind you, and everybody gets real quiet and stiff.
Right.
So we're outside going from one building to the other, and Goz puts his hand on my shoulder like, it's okay. And then like our sales manager, K. Rich, goes, he can't hurt you anymore. He's not playing. And I'm like, what are you guys joking? What are you? Look over my shoulder, and there's David Ortiz,
the
Big
nemesis
Poppy.
of your existence.
Right. And I just watched Patriots Day, so I kind of like him right now.
Yeah. You like him even more when he's not torching your Yankees.
I like him a lot more right now. But I'm like, I can't talk to the guy because I would have to joke and I would say something stupid, and he is a monstrous human being. He's huge.
Yeah, he'd put you in his pocket. He'd beat Goz with you.
Yeah, yes. Probably. No problem. He'd bang us together like cymbals.
What happened to Goz and Jeff? Oh, we don't want to talk about that ugly incident on May 17th of 2017 where things went horribly wrong.
Big Poppy is scraping them off the bottom of his shoes as we speak.
So even though Big Poppy may have had some success against us, your Yankees are having a lot of success right now, my boy.
Yeah, but I didn't get to tell him how I almost got.
No, I don't want to tell him that.
I run in, I tell the security guard, I'm like, I think he tried to steal my wallet.
Yeah, because security around here, you don't want the whole Seinfeld episode, okay, we have Big Poppy and Quadrant 5, swarm. You don't want to go viral as a guy that got him arrested
I tried.
on the ESPN campus.
And then I yelled out, you got to say Yankees rule to come in. And he did not smile.
Yeah, I did my best to cover your tracks again. I think eventually if you tell the story more and more, we're going to be, you know what, you guys, you got to go.
God can't save those that don't want to be saved.
Amen.
Seriously.
Amen. Amen. Go ahead, guys. You want to ask sports questions since we're at ESPN?
The Yankees, can they continue the success? I don't want to bum out Levack here because you've met Poppy now, but the Yankees, can they be good throughout the entire season?
Well, the one thing they don't do is give away innings. And what I mean by that is their defense has been really good. A lot of people did not expect that the defense would be this good this year. You thought they were going to hit a little bit, but nobody saw, here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Yes. Ordering the court. Here comes Aaron Judge. Nobody saw his start coming. You thought Gary Sanchez coming back from the injury. You knew they were going to hit. But they're really, really above average defensively. Now, knowing the New York Yankees, these aren't your older brothers or fathers New York Yankees. They're not going to mortgage their farm system to get a quality arm at the trading deadline. But if somebody's available that they can pull a Danny Ainge and swindle them, treat them like the Brooklyn Nets, then you know Brian Cashman is going to do that. But when you have a team that believes, that confidence can take you a long way. Right now, that team and the Houston Astros, those two teams really believe they're the two best teams in baseball.
Staying in New York, and you brought up the Celtics, so let's bring up the Knicks.
Speaking of non-belief,
how do you go from worst case scenario, a 7th pick, to an 8th pick?
Yeah, boy, I've had that question roll around my mind, guys and Jeff, since the balls fell not that way for the New York Knicks, and I said to myself, why am I surprised? Because the last time the New York Knicks won a world championship, gas was free in the United States. I was 7 years of age at that time. The Brady Bunch was still on TV. The last time the New York Knicks won an NBA championship, it gets to a certain point that, and I heard you guys discussing it in terms of when you have organizational structure from the top and you don't know what you're going to do or what you're doing on a day-by-day basis, of course people should not be surprised that the New York Knicks did not get a top 7 pick with the lottery in the NBA, because you have a guy in Phil Jackson that I don't think he understood how hard the process was going to be, and now that he realizes how hard it is, he doesn't want to be a part of it, but he's not walking away from $12 million a year that James Dolan is paying him. So instead of really grinding, he's too old to do that, number one. And number two, he doesn't trust anybody to do it underneath him. So that's why you get where you are with the New York Knicks, where you're saying, hey, we got the 8th pick in the draft. We're not getting LeVar Ball. We're not getting Markelle Fultz. We're not getting Malik Monk. We're not getting De'Aaron Fox. Oh, joy. Wait. When you have those things as part of your DNA as a Knicks organization, fans at that point, they just look at their feet and hope for the best. And as Alan Hahn said, I just hope we see a Knicks championship this lifetime, but I doubt it.
It hurts me to hear all of that, and then plus knowing that Carmelo Anthony's still there, and I don't know the future of Carmelo. What does Carmelo want to do, and what should the Knicks want to do with Carmelo?
Well, I never want to tell grown men what to do, especially those 6'8", 240 pounds. But if I'm Carmelo Anthony, I'm not waiving that trade clause. I am not going to do the dirty work for Phil Jackson, and here's why. Phil Jackson knew when he took this job that Carmelo Anthony was not the kind of guy he wanted to have the triangle offense, whatever offense he's going to run. Carmelo Anthony is a gifted scorer, but he is a gifted ball stopper. That's been his M.O. He is a gifted scorer, no doubt about that. You know what you get into when you bring a Carmelo Anthony to your basketball team. So knowing all of that, having all that intel that you knew before you took the Knicks job, why would you give him a max contract and a no-trade clause? Why would you even do that? If I was Phil Jackson at that moment, I'd say, hey, Carmelo, I know you want to believe that this can work here in New York. You're not our kind of guy. You're an unrestricted free agent. Go wherever you like. Enjoy Lake Michigan in Chicago. Enjoy the barbecue in Houston. Enjoy Malibu Drive in Los Angeles. But we are going to start over with the New York Knicks. Instead, Phil Jackson sold him a bill of goods, or maybe Carmelo Anthony sold himself a bill of goods. But if you knew that guy was not going to be your guy, then why would you give him that? If I'm Carmelo Anthony, I'm thinking, I'm not doing your dirty work. You gave me a no-trade clause. So if I don't want to waive it because I believe it can work here, why should I do that? If I'm Carmelo Anthony, I'm not waiving that no-trade clause.
Freddie Coleman is right now, Levack and Goz, 104.5 the team. So what if, does Phil have to come to him with the perfect deal already in place? Like,
absolutely.
If you take this deal, you're going to Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
And then maybe.
Yeah, because you can't go to Carmelo and say, hey, we want you to waive the no-trade clause and go to Minnesota. Carmelo's going to go, look, I know I'm going through a marital situation. I'm not going to put that situation on top of my marital situation. I'm not going to Minnesota and freeze. It has to be something where Carmelo's going to look at that team and say, okay, I know it's better than New York, but how much better is it going to be 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line, because this is the last big contract he's going to get. He's not getting another max deal, and he knows that. But you can't trade him somewhere where 2 years from now he looks down the road and says, boy, I could have stayed in New York and been a part of that and had the best of both worlds where I'm close to my family, trying to work that out, and I'm playing in New York. The Clippers seem to be the logical fit. The perfect team for Carmelo would be the Houston Rockets. The problem with that is he and Mike D'Antoni don't get along, so they're not going to revisit that, what happened in New York. But in terms of how they play with James Harden looking for shooters, you can't tell me that guy would not be a perfect fit for Houston, but it's not going to work because Mike D'Antoni is not forgotten, and neither has Carmelo Anthony at the time they had in New York.
The Knicks aren't in the Eastern Conference Finals, so the Celtics and the Cavaliers, the Warriors and Spurs on the other side. Are we going to ever see the Cavaliers or Warriors lose in the playoffs until the NBA Finals?
You know what? I don't see it happening because both of those teams, and we all sort of knew this, that we were going to get Cavs Warriors 3. We got Iron Man 1 and 2. Both were good. Iron Man 3 wasn't bad. Cavs Warriors 3 is not going to be bad either. It may be better because both teams hopefully will be healthy. We have not had that. And the reason I say that is I'm tired of excuses. I'm tired of Warriors fans saying, well, you know, Steph Curry was injured last year. I'm tired of Cavaliers fans saying, well, 2 years ago, Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving were injured. Look, 2 years ago, you had a 2-1 series lead. Nobody was talking about those guys being injured. They were on Matthew Dellavedova being a Curry stopper, and then all of a sudden the date didn't end well for him. I don't want to hear that from last year from Golden State because you had a 3-1 series lead with an injured Steph Curry, and 2 of those 3 games, final 3 games, were at home. Find a way to get it done. Same thing with the San Antonio Spurs. They're beefing and moaning about Kawhi Leonard getting injured, and I get it if you're Greg Popovich. You still had a 23-point lead on the road, and then last night you had the audacity to not show up, to not rally around losing your guy. They showed a point of Greg Popovich where he just stood and stared for 4 or 5 possessions in a row. He looked like an old man at a traffic stop waiting for the light to change. That's how bad it was for him in the second quarter. He could not believe what he was seeing. Boston's going to give Cleveland a series. I'd be stunned if they get more than 2 games. But we're heading to Cavs-Warriors, and if you're an NBA fan, why would you not want that? Why would you not want to have Steph, Clay, Draymond, LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love in a trilogy that may not end? I don't see how any basketball fan would not want that.
Freddie Coleman with us right now. So, Freddie, you used to be in Albany.
Yeah.
Did you see what happened with lacrosse?
I know. How about I watched the game against North Carolina last week.
Amazing game.
Now they got Maryland right this week.
Yes, sets the record for home attendance. Being in the Capital Region, could you ever imagine lacrosse blowing up like it is out there?
That's not just a no. That's a hell no. I mean, and that's not sliding the Albany athletic program. I mean, when I was up there in 2003, 2004, you got the sense they were bubbling under a little bit. But nobody saw this coming, what they were able to do with lacrosse. They've done a great job, not just recruiting, but they've gone into hotbeds. They've gone into Long Island. They've gone into New Jersey. They've gone into Connecticut. But the Capital District is a pretty fertile area when it comes to lacrosse. So some of those hometown kids now looking at Albany and saying, man, I could stay at home and still playing for a great program, play against nationally ranked opponents, get a chance to play on national TV, and my mom and dad for Shenandoah or anybody else can come see me play. So they've done a great job not only getting local kids, you get a couple, that's fine,
right,
but they've been able to find their scope. Okay, we can go in there and say, hey, where are you, Albany? Then you bring them to the campus. You bring them to the Capital District. That's a major selling point for young men and young women when they go to that campus and see the Capital District area.
104.5 The Team. We're live at the ESPN campus. Freddie Coleman with us.
I've heard a story, and I don't know if there's any truth to this, of how you actually ended up here at ESPN. Is this story true that someone from ESPN was actually driving through Albany and heard you? That is true.
Yeah.
What is the real story behind this?
Bruce Gilbert, who was the general manager of ESPN Radio at that time, he was driving to a seminar in upstate New York, and Bruce is he's one of the smartest radio people that I've ever met. I'm talking about with any format. That's how much I value his opinion and value his knowledge. He has it going. He's forgotten more about radio than people know. And he was driving through, and he just was flipping around the dial, and it was the one day I was on by myself without John Tobin, who wasn't feeling well. And apparently, maybe I fooled him, or maybe he was drunk, whatever that was. He heard me, and he goes back to a Monday meeting, and he says, man, I heard, because game night at that point had an opening for a full-time position. And he said in the Monday meeting, man, I heard a guy up in Albany I think would be perfect for game night. His name is Freddie Coleman. Bruce Gilbert didn't realize that the producer of game night was Jason Barrett. And Jason Barrett had known each other. We had known each other since the Poughkeepsie, New York days. And Jason Barrett also worked in the Capital District. Jason said he almost gave himself whiplash, whipping his head around. So, who did you say? Because he thought someone was playing a joke on him. So he raised his hand. He said, yeah, I know how to get in touch with him. And Bruce goes, through who? He goes, through nothing. I got his phone number in my phone. So he calls me. I'm getting ready to prepare for the show. And over the loudspeaker, they go, Freddie Coleman, line 1. And I pick it up as Jason Barrett. And you guys know, anybody that makes from the Capital District on a national level, we really ride with them because we know they're representing us no matter what spectrum that is. And Jason goes, how married are you to the Tobin and Coleman show? And I'm thinking, that's a pretty strange question to get. And then he explained, he said, we got an opening game night. My general manager heard you, and he thinks that you should audition for it. So I'm thinking, okay, ha, very funny. But then I didn't hear any laughter on the other side. So I'm thinking, okay, this is real. Okay, they're actually serious about this. So I sent my stuff the next day. At that point, Dave Zaslowski was the weekend program manager. They called me for an audition. I auditioned that next weekend. 13 years later, here I am.
Freddie and Fitz.
Yeah, Freddie and Fitz. Yeah, we do our thing.
I know that was a pairing that at first I was like, I love it.
You know, and the thing about it is, I wasn't worried about it because Fitzy and I have known each other for 10 years. I mean, he gets it on my show. I've known about him.
He's crazy.
Well, I don't know if crazy is the word. I would say fundamentally insane.
Yeah,
probably
in an entertaining way.
In a very entertaining way. I feel sorry for his mom all the time. I said, you kind of begat this. She goes, I know, but I'm Mama Fitz, so these are my boys and everything. But I wasn't worried when the pairing happened because I knew that I wasn't going to stop being me. he was not going to stop being him. And we knew we would be able to make that work because we agree on about 20% of the things, 80%, but we're not yelling at each other. We're not calling each other names. You can do that in a fun way, but at a certain point, when does credibility begin and when does that stick in? And I think we've been able to find that perfect balance of that.
Freddie Coleman, we appreciate you, and like you said, when the 518ers do good, we all follow, we ride along, we appreciate you.
We got 2 518ers doing well as you guys, man.
They just forgot to lock the door.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them. Don't give away information that they don't ask for. Let's put it that way.